As he tackled me, I took the brunt of it and went with it, taking a shoulder to the chest as my helmeted head bounced off the rocky ground. Shaking off the impact, I immediately pulled guard on him by wrapping my legs around his waist and locking my ankles. At the same time, I used my arms to hug him tightly, one arm over his shoulder and the other under his armpit on the opposite side. I latched my hands behind his shoulders and held on for all I was worth. It was like riding a rabid bull. Josh went mad, clawing at me with reckless abandon. Fortunately, he couldn't use his full strength against me because he didn't have the space to wind up and take a good swipe. And in this position, he couldn't effectively bite me, no matter how hard he tried. With his elongated werewolf muzzle and snout, he couldn't get enough space to get a decent mouthful of my head or shoulder. Even so, his claws and teeth scratched the hell out of my helmet and leathers, reminding me why I'd chosen to wear them. The only problem was that eventually he'd get through the magically strengthened Kevlar and leather covering my torso and shoulders. I already felt his claws gaining a bit more purchase with each swipe. The wards could only take so much damage. Once he got through them and ripped the protective panels out of the jacket, he'd shred me like last week's TPS reports. So, I needed to improvise. And it was going to hurt. I hadn't had time to adjust the strap on the helmet before Josh had jumped on me, which was just as well. I had tucked the face shield tight to his head and neck as soon as I'd locked onto him, to keep him from grabbing the helmet and twisting my head off like a beer bottle cap. And while the helmet was doing a great job of protecting me, it was also preventing me from using the only useful weapons I had in this position. Namely, my teeth. During our training with Finn, he'd encouraged Jesse and me to cross-train in as many other fighting styles and martial arts systems as possible. So, we'd picked up a little of everything, from Aikido to Vale-Tudo. I was always looking for instructors who taught down and dirty stuff. And that's how I'd found out about Kinamote. It supposedly came from the Philippines, and the style was all about biting and eye-gouging at close range. Not very useful against paranormal creatures, as you usually wanted to keep your distance. But in this case, it was my best shot at putting Josh down quick. If I could rip out a carotid artery and hang on, he might just bleed enough to pass out, which would give me the win. Being a werewolf, as long as we patched him up quick, he'd recover, and then hopefully allow me to go on my merry way. At least, that was the plan. As Josh rolled around on the ground, frantically clawing at my back and scrambling for a way to get me off him, I pulled my jaw in and back, working it around to get the strap over my chin. I waited for the right moment, when the pressure of Josh's teeth on the back of the helmet had relaxed. Then, I reached up quickly with one hand, slipping a thumb under the edge to pop it off. In my Kinamote training, we'd practiced chewing through steaks wrapped in a t-shirt. No lie. I got good enough to chew through a nice sirloin in under 20 seconds. It was gross, but after class we'd barbecue, so at least the meat hadn't gone to waste. Remembering what that crazy-ass instructor had taught us, I drove my face into Josh's neck, using my mouth to feel for his blood pulsing under all that thick, hairy skin and muscle. Josh must have sensed what I was doing because he went nuts, rolling over and over and trying to use those huge canines of his to gnaw a hole in my skull. Unfortunately for Josh, I had the better position. With my face under his jaw, he couldn't bite my head if his life depended on it. That being said, his claws were another matter. With his first swipe, he opened a gash on the back of my head that gushed blood down my neck and shoulders. The wolves cheered as they smelled first blood, but it barely registered as I searched for Josh's pulse. It probably looked like I was necking with him, but I didn't care. I had to find the right spot before he maimed or killed me. There. Amidst a mouthful of fur and skin, I felt the thump, thump, thump of an arterial pulse. Without hesitation, I gnawed through skin, fur, and flesh as if my life depended on it.